Now, the rest of the story.
Welcome back to the rest of the story. Let me unplug the fan so we don't have that going in the background. It's getting hot out. I'm not really even sure what the day is. Well, I hope it's at least the 30th of June because that's what I signed earlier on some paperwork. Working on the baler, working on haying stuff, taking care of the kid, you know, being a dad, that kind of thing. Which, believe it or not, I actually really do like being a dad. And Relina really seemed to like hanging out with me today. So, I said something about working on the round baler. So let's look at it. I'm not done, but what I ended up doing was going through and changing out a bunch of broken teeth. Really, I don't try to make that big of a deal with broken teeth. We got, you know, some victims right there. But what the problem was is that on this pickup, cell phone video for those of you who can't tell, the outside two teeth on each end of the baler are these heavier duty teeth compared to the ones in the center. And even the ones in the center compared to that 535 that we had are a lot sturdier than the ones in the 535. They were round, they bent easy, and these guys, they take a lot more abuse. I mean, these that are all faded, they're actually going on a couple years old. So, and yes, running it without a band right here. The reason I run it without the band is because I put 4 different, like brand new, they had these are supposed to be longer. Like you can see, this one is longer compared to those two. I got the long ones so that way it accommodated for the bigger springs, and it still knocked it off. The last time I actually ended up destroying the belt on that side where I lost it because I got carried away and I put some bolts in it so it couldn't just break out or, you know, disintegrate, and it destroyed a belt. So I said, you know what, you seem pretty content without running with that band on there, so I'm not going to do it. Which, interestingly enough, down in there is nice and clean. This side with the band on it was actually built up full of hay material in there, which is where all that stuff came from. So by not running a band, you think it'd be just absolutely terrible and hard on stuff, and to be honest, it's a non-issue. But these heavier teeth on the outside, what they do is, say you got a windrow bigger than your pickup, which tends to happen quite a bit with that Rhino rake, which I'm not complaining, that's actually what I prefer. Well, what happens is you get hay that is wider than the pickup, so then you get a whole bunch of material trying to make its way in the side like that, and these bigger teeth are able to take a bit more of the abuse. Now, coincidentally, we made not quite 300 bales down at the valley the other day, and I only changed out 2 of the little guys. I mean, we got that one, and there's another one on the underneath. And what I ended up doing is, I knew that I broke 1 or 2 of these. I didn't realize that I broke pretty much all of them on this side. These 2 that you see right here that are obviously used, are the only ones that I didn't break. Now, otherwise, I changed the rest of them out. Problem with that is why you always have to examine your equipment thoroughly before you call your local parts guy, is because I only ordered 2 for each side because I thought there was something broke on that side. That side didn't lose any. I lost them all over here. So what we say now is, now I have spares. So it breaks again, it'll be a non-event. It's kind of annoying going through and taking the bands off and doing this and that, but I'm the one that does a lot of the maintenance on the baler, and it comes to the point where I would rather I start losing a few of the teeth, I'd rather just replace them, as opposed to with the 535 you couldn't keep ahead of it. You couldn't. You could change them all at the beginning of the hay season and use it twice and half the things were gone. These teeth obviously are a big help with that, but anymore I'd rather replace a few teeth at a time than wait until half the pickup is gone and need the baler and then have the decision that I have to go through and change teeth be I can't get it to feed, because these guys right here were an issue. Down underneath, hey puppy, Kevin, you can see my spray nozzles for the hay preservative. 1, 2, 3. That's the next project I'm going to be doing here real quick. But what happened was I had all these compression springs, I think is what the parts guy just called them. And the problem I had with the material I was making, it was so dry. Yes, kind of weird thinking that we had dry hay material, almost too dry hay material, down at the bottom of all places this year in June, where it was actually flicking the stuff with the pickup, and then the fines and stuff. Granted, you gotta use your imagination. Imagine a bunch more of these through here. I just ordered a bunch of new ones. It would fling the stuff up on top of these, and it would build up that area from there all the way up back into there. And you see the hazard sign on the 76. Now you see that piece of metal right ahead of that. It would actually fill that whole compartment up from end to end on the inside, to where it was actually throwing the hay back, and it was building up back in here on top of that cross roller. So after doing that about a dozen times, I took them all out. I thought that would alleviate the problem. It did not. It just didn't happen quite so often. And for a little bit that was still up there, yep, all that stuff, it would still fill up full of hay, and you think the stuff would just fall out. I mean, the stuff was fine, like that stuff right there, which is still green, by the way, an issue. So what I had as a problem here is, you see the 3 nozzles, they actually got to where they were collecting hay, and we're getting a whole bunch of material built up on top of them, and it was shoving them, like that one right there. It shoved them down like that. So what I'm gonna do, which I had them, I'll look at it again. It's just a U-bolt through a plate on the nozzle there, and you can tighten it and tighten it and tighten it until you start snapping stuff. And it's only gonna do so much, because it's just gonna start bending that plate on. Well, you can see that one's bent. So what I'm going to do, I'm not going to weld the nozzle to that crossbar. I'm actually going to just tack weld the U-bolt to it, so that way I can loosen the bolts up and still pull those nozzles out if I need to replace them, and I think we'll be fine. I like having the hay preservative. Probably didn't, hold on, I'll admit, I probably didn't, almost certainly didn't need to put it on down on the hay I made down at the valley. The stuff was dry. I took my hay tester down, and I tested all the hay that is put away inside, and I'm getting anywhere from 000, which, you know, means that there's enough moisture there for it to register, to 8% moisture, and the highest I can find is 12, which should really keep. Now, when you go through and check the temperature, I'm getting anywhere from originally 72 to 87. Not enough for me to really get too super worried about it. The shed door is open, so I'm letting air in. I mean, because you don't want to completely shut the shed up, which it's got windows and such on it that's able to breathe. But in about 2 weeks, no matter how dry your material is, it's still gonna heat. It's gonna sweat a little bit, which the stuff isn't sweating. I only found one bale that is conveniently placed up where if it does sweat a little bit, it's gonna be able to, like, not like just trap it and create a, you know, clench your butt cheeks moment. So as far as that goes, the stuff down there is good. But at the same time, I was putting the preservative on it for the simple fact that it helps me sleep at night. Now, I'm getting a bad rep from people on here that only see me for 10 minutes or whatever else, that I stress too much and like different shit like that. And I have valid reasons to be concerned about the things I get concerned about. It's not your livelihood I'm worried about, it's my livelihood I'm worried about. And losing, well, I don't really, it's nobody's business how much the hay is worth, but the hay is worth an awful lot. I'm already 2/3 of the way to what I made last year as far as the amount of hay I've got. So it's a good chunk of change, and I don't want that material to go sour on me or, you know, go up in flames. And as far as that goes, the hay preservative is being done a little bit differently this year. Actually set up a pump that is gravity fed from the banjo pump on the tank, on the tote, which this was $2,000, by the way, this little setup. I had to put a fitting on it because the one that I got last year actually had the stuff I needed. It actually had this. This one didn't, which actually, it's not the same stuff that I had last year, but still pretty much priced the same. But I went with a gravity fed pump. It's still only 4.5 gallons, so it doesn't pump super duper fast, but 10 minutes and that tank will be filled up. Still have the connector running from this end and out. The genius part, which I didn't even plan it like this, because I ordered this pump to even get one, you know, and it came with this. I mean, it didn't come with this stretch of wire, that I'm holding. So this guy is actually an extender wire, already ready to go from here to here. Was actually from that John Deere UTV sprayer. It was extra wire just in case you had to get creative to get the power. So I repurposed that, which is fine, right? So I can hook it up to, and I need a plug for it. That's why it's sitting where it's at. I mean, spiderweb, bad, right? It's sitting down so the dust can't collect, you know, up into it. But what I'm doing is this guy right there, if you can see that, it just so happens I already have one of those to supply power to it. And has anybody guessed where it's at? Hey, look at that. Booyah. So this guy that actually runs the fluid, the liquid, to my nozzles, comes all the way back up here, and look at that. So all I had to do was unplug it here from the connector, and I can run the transfer pump off of the controller in the cab for that pump. So I just guess I got really lucky. I didn't really think about that until I went to actually go get it all set up. So I crank that up to wide open and you're ready to go. So that really worked in my favor. You know, everybody says it's money as far as putting the liquid on, and I don't really want to do it. That's just terrible. Let me tell you, I have 12 bales that I made for Dad and Ryan. I'm not going to say whose it was or whatever else, but it had a lot of clover in it. It didn't get tedded because the only stuff that got tedded was my stuff. It was raked twice, I believe. Still damp when it came time where I had to bale it because otherwise it was going to get rain on. And I didn't quite have this tote yet. So I went through and made it just because time was up. The alarm clock was going off. It was either you make it or it's just going to get rained on for a couple days and you just got crud hay. Well, it didn't really matter other than the fact that it heated. And if I would have been able to put this stuff on it, it would have at least made some better quality hay and probably would have alleviated that problem, because the hay was dry but damp. Just, I don't know how to explain it for those of you that, for my non-ag people, but it was, you could just tell it was going to be a headache. So the hay, when we hauled it in, it was kept away from everything else. It was left outside, it was spaced out, and it did end up getting warm. It went sour, and I don't want to say sour because that makes it sound like you can't feed it, because I'm currently feeding it out to my cows. I'm trading some dry hay that I eventually will get made here of my own with them, and I'm just going to feed out these bales now as we go forward here, because the cows are still at my place, or not my place. Some of the cows are at my place. We hauled them out, but the ones that are still here are still being fed hay. After we get past the 4th of July, I'm going to let them back out on grass for, well, until they get it chewed down. And I'm actually doing really good, feeling really great as far as the whole feed situation, keeping the cattle fed scenario, largely because I'm still feeding, I still have plenty of hay from last year. And the only reason I'm feeding hay from this year is because I had like 4 bales of my own down at the valley that net wrap issues. Well, you guys saw them in that other video, I do believe, where the net wrap was kind of funky and they were just kind of goofy looking bales. Really wasn't going to be worth selling them. And then I had some hay that I bought. I haven't had to feed any of that yet. And I still got like 12 to 16 bales of that first stuff from last year that the cows are still eating on. And it's good stuff. I mean, the outside looks kind of crummy, but the inside stuff, like the inner core and all that, is good stuff. I mean, it's really not that dusty, and the cows are eating it right down to what's left. Like, what's a little bit of left, tripping over my own tongue here. They're eating it down to the little bit of rotten stuff that like was on the ground that was constantly bombarded with moisture from being on the ground. So I'm going to finish this baler up, which shouldn't take too much longer. The pickup actually took longer than what it should have. I got to clean the air filters out on the tractor. I'm probably not going to armor all it. I mean, I'm just getting to the point where I want the equipment to be clean. It's a lot more enjoyable to drive, do field work, and a nice clean cab tractor. Granted, it's not a brand new machine, but to tell you what, when there's not dirt and dust flying around every time you turn the blower on, it makes it a lot more enjoyable. So probably need to cut hay probably tomorrow, because we are out of the rain concerns until Tuesday. So we have at least enough of window now. It rained yesterday morning, dried out yesterday, today, tomorrow. The ground's probably going to still be a little wet underneath where all like the heavier material is. But once again, I still have a bunch of first cut that I have to make. I'm trying to make dry. The reason I'm trying to make it dry is because we have no wrapping. We don't chop. And even the stuff that I made down at the valley, that was kind of gravy, because I had no intentions of making it until July, because it's typically a wetter farm. The ground is typically really good in a bad way at holding moisture. I mean, it still did, to be honest, and I had a window to make it dry, and I took it. It also put me getting all my side dress on in jeopardy, which I still managed to get done too. So right back to that whole stressing and farming thing, which it's the lifestyle. It's what we deal with. So people that say they take it better in stride, that's great, but different situations, different scenarios, different ground, different layouts. And the problem is, people can sit and comment in the comments down below, or send me emails about they do this, that, or wherever else better. I don't know their situation. I don't care to look up any potential internet, Instagram, YouTube accounts that they may or may not have. But at the same point, when they don't have anything to back it up other than their words, I don't generally trust people. So it's really easy to say that you made 300 acres of hay in 2 days, and it's all dry hay that you got hauled up in small square bales that you threw by hand, and make yourself look like a rock star when really you're just trying to get some internet cred. So, not interested. So with that, thanks for watching, thanks for tuning in. Really just got to focus on getting hay done, keeping up with the equipment. Then I do have like hay and stuff like that we got to focus on, but at least June's in the rearview mirror, which generally June is my favorite month of the year. I don't know why, it's just one of those things where if you ask me, I prefer June. And once you get past the 4th of July, it's going to be, I think, a downhill slide into harvest, as odd as that sounds, because the crops do look good sporadically. Depends on which farms you're looking at. You can get 10 miles away from here and they start to look, well, they actually look about half as tall, not half as far along as the stuff around here. But we've also had a lot of rain. So with that, take care, take it easy, keep in touch. I'll talk to you later.